Yes, why don't you go right there, right there. Sounds good. You can come on over. Good afternoon. I'm Bruce Gordon with the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. Thank you for joining us here today. And for those of you who are watching online across the state of Minnesota, welcome to you as well. We're here today to provide a significant update in a death investigation and a missing person case. Today you'll be hearing from Drew Evans, the superintendent of the Minnesota BCA, Mille Lacs County Sheriff Don Lorge, BCA Deputy Superintendent of Forensic Science Services, Catherine Knutson, and Rich Rieken, brother of the missing woman. We'll start with Drew Evans from the BCA.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. As stated, I am Drew Evans. I'm the superintendent at the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. Gloria Frida Rieken was 18 years old when she disappeared in 1970. For the past 49 years, her family didn't know where she was or what had happened to her. She was a student at the University of Minnesota when she left her University Avenue apartment one day in the Twin Cities, headed for school, but she never made it. Her family never heard from her again from that point forward, but today we're announcing that she was the unidentified woman found in a Mille Lacs County fire back in 1970. When anybody goes missing, it's always our goal at the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension to work with our local partners to bring that person home and bring them safe. The news we're announcing today is not the hope that the family had hoped for. We wanted to see Gloria come home safely, as we do all Minnesotans who are missing. However, it does give the family answers so that we can bring Gloria home to rest. For this investigation, it's the first significant development that we've had in almost 50 years. And from this point forward, we will start trying to determine exactly the circumstances surrounding Gloria's death and what occurred with her. And from here, I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff Lorge to give a few more details about that incident back in 1970 from the Mille Lacs County Sheriff's Office.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Don Lorge. I'm the sheriff with Mille Lacs County Sheriff's Office. And just advise that because this is an active investigation, I can't go into great detail, but I will tell you what I can. First of all, thank you for coming to allow us to tell the story. And this story today is about Gloria Rieken, was 18 years old, had gone missing back in November 1970. What I can tell you is back on November 9th, 1970, there was a fire in an abandoned house in rural Mille Lacs County. At that time, due to it being an abandoned home and no danger to any other buildings or anything else, there was no response from fire department or anything at that time. On November 10th, 1970, a neighbor had discovered, while looking through the debris of the house, what he believed to be human remains. In a Mille Lacs County deputy was called out to the scene and ultimately collected those remains, and those remains had been sent to Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office. At that time, Hennepin County Medical Office reported that the remains belonged to a young female. They were not able to make any other identification. They also determined that the fire did not cause the death. However, they were not able to determine the cause of death at that time. So who she was, how she died, or how she ended up in a burned home in Mille Lacs County at that point was a mystery. Fast forward, as a Mille Lacs County investigator, I received this case as a cold case. At that point, I was able to determine that the remains had been buried in a Milo Cemetery in rural Mille Lacs County. I was also familiar with BCA and their cold case division, and with technology that has been increased since the 1970s. I decided to reach out to BCA, and I spoke with Chris Rush from BCA. I advised her of what I had, and that my thoughts were that we would exhume the remains and with any attempt to get any DNA to move forward with any possible identification. So on August 23rd, 2018, with assistance from BCA and forensic anthropologists, we exhumed the remains from Milo Cemetery, sent them to Midwest Medical Examiner's Office with the hope of being able to extract any DNA for identification purposes. A short while later, I received some information from the Medical Examiner's Office in BCA that they were able to extract some DNA, and that evidence was going to be entered in the database against any missing persons that were out there. On February 5th, 2019, I received a call from Chris Rush from BCA stating that they had made an identification of the remains. And those remains were of that of Gloria Rican, who at that time would have been 18 years old at the time of her death in 1970. The information that I had was that she had been a student from the University of Minnesota, where she had left at one point in early November 1970 not to return, and nobody had any idea where she had gone. Learning her identity gave us our first break in the case in nearly half a century. Now we can try to piece together how she came to Mille Lacs County and hopefully how she died. Again, as this is an ongoing investigation, I'm not able to provide further detail at this time, but we are, however, asking the public's help for any information that they may be able to provide to help determine what may have happened to Gloria. With that said, I will turn this over to Lab Director Kathy Knudsen.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Knudsen. I'm Deputy Superintendent over the Forensic Science Services here at the BCA. The family of Gloria Rican made a critical decision in 2013. Their decision to come forward to provide DNA is a key reason as to why we're here today. Without them, the identification of their longtime missing sister and daughter would not have been possible. Back in 2013, the BCA began an outreach to gather information from the family of those who have missing loved ones in an effort to locate them, identify their loved ones, and since then, many people have come forward and provided that information to assist in that effort. However, there are still many unidentified people here in Minnesota with DNA in the missing persons database waiting to be searched against their loved ones, which means there's still a lot of work to do. Many families are still awaiting answers. We urge Minnesotans whose loved ones have gone missing to contact the BCA's Missing and Unidentified Persons Clearinghouse, where you will be able to be guided through the process to assist in getting DNA entered into the database. We also encourage law enforcement to continue pursuing cases such as this, as the Mille Lacs County Sheriff's Office did in this case. Awareness about advancements in technology and the emerging tools can be vitally important as we are seeing today. The communication between Mille Lacs County Sheriff's Office and our BCA Missing Persons team was a turning point for a difficult case, and it made it possible to return Gloria to her family. And at this point, I will turn this over.
I'm Rich Rican. Gloria was my sister. My siblings are here, Brad and Eileen. First off, I'd like to start by thanking the BCA for all they've done to this point to just find Gloria. That was a big step that we just made, finding her remains and matching the DNA. Special thanks to Sheriff Lorge, his initiative, to exhume the body and take on this cold case, was great. Without his observation of this, we never would have found Gloria. So, big thanks out to these agencies for all that they have done. They explained already how we got to this point. What happened was back in 2013, we saw a news story down out of Rochester, and that they were had a database full of Jane Does or John Does, missing people, and they were saying if you had a missing person in your family to come forward and provide DNA samples, and they would put your DNA in a database and try to find a match. So I called the BCA office, and they had an agent meet us in Rochester and get us DNA sample from my mom and dad. So with that DNA sample from my parents, that's what got put in the database. Then other things happened after that too. I had a another agent from the BCA that had us, set up a name us profile with some information online about Gloria, and that was several years ago. And then, just seems like out of the blue, last week, sorry guys. Out of the blue, they had a match. Had a call from the BCA office, and the agent called and asked who I was, if I knew Gloria, and they just said they had an update on Gloria's case. It was the middle of a snowstorm, and I said, well, why don't you just tell me over the phone? And they said, no, we're coming down. And I said, well, you sure? They said, yeah, we're going to be there. So then an agent from the BCA and Sheriff Lorge came down and met with me and my brother and sister, and gave us an update on Gloria's case, where they said they had found her. Now we're just looking forward to them having some time to investigate the circumstances that what happened to Gloria. Hopefully they'll, we've got a big step that we came forward now, and hopefully they can take it the extra step to the finish line and find out exactly what happened to her. And I realize it might be a lot to ask after all these years, but the hope is still there. A little bit about Gloria. I was only 2 years old when she disappeared. We had other siblings that ranged in age from 8 to 12 years old. She had a passion for art and music. Her favorite artist was Bob Dylan back in the time. It was the late 60s, 70s. It was 70 when she disappeared. She was a really good artist. We had drawings around from her that she had done in high school. That actually is a piece that she did in high school, that art piece there to the right of her photo. She liked, drawing Peanuts cartoons. She was an active, teenager. She did door-to-door campaigning for Hubert Humphrey and Walter Mondale. And from what I understand, I don't know, like I said, I was 2, but from what my sister says, she was devastated when they lost the election. So, she was a young, active, college girl. She went to college, aspiring to do well, looking forward to her future, and starting her own life. Then she was gone. It's good to have the answers, though. My mom and dad and siblings always wondered what happened to Gloria. And, even my brother said, he never knew if she was still alive. Did he ever see her in life sometime, or has she been around and we didn't know it? And, now we have the answer to that. She had no way of coming home. So now, we have that answer. Not many items left of her, after 49 years. But I'm glad that we made it to this day, and that the BCA and these guys behind me have done all the work that they have done. So, thank you.
We'll open it up to questions for any speakers. Any questions? Well,
they were so insistent on coming down and sharing their information with me. When they said they were going to be down in a couple hours, there was a snowstorm. We saw them 4 hours later. I guess the first thing that went through my mind was just tons of curiosity. What's the update going to be? You know, is there? And I realized minimal chance that they'd be walking through the door with her, but I had a feeling that they found her remains, and knowing that we had done this DNA sampling, that's exactly where I thought we were going to be going after I kind of processed the phone call. And I thought they found a match. That's what I thought. Everybody's always had hope, but as time goes on, it's less and less. There would have been no hope if we hadn't seen that news story, and if I hadn't taken my mom and dad in for DNA sampling. If they hadn't made the offer, this wouldn't have happened. So it's a good thing. For me, I was 2 years old. I don't really have a recollection of her. It hit, my other siblings harder than me, I believe. And for me, it was more trying to help my parents, put an end to the wondering what happened. So. It wasn't like a constant, but every once in a while it'd be a thought or a conversation, occasional conversation. So. She was the oldest sibling, yep, of 6. Yes. I am. Can't you tell? Yep. They got my back. Of course. I mean, if there's any person out there that, even if it was a friend of hers that visited back in 1970, went to see her at college, anybody that would have anything that would help would be great. I mean, it could be just a little thing. Maybe there's someone out there that thought, oh, this girl went missing and she just took off or disappeared, whatever. Maybe somebody's got some thought or something from the past that might help them. So anything that would help them would be great. No, we're from southern Minnesota. Yeah.
No, as you can imagine, this is our biggest break on this case, and this has just occurred this last week. We are asking for anything from the public, even if it seems something small, anything whatsoever, what ties may be to Mille Lacs County, so anything at all that the public may be able to provide, that's what we're seeking. There again, we're still in the middle of the process. I haven't, as this moment, I haven't verified any direct link, but again, we're in the middle of the investigation, so that is yet to come. Well, I can tell you it was in rural Mille Lacs County on Keystone Road, which is located approximately 8.5 miles northeast of the city of Malacca. And at that time, that road would have been a very low-traveled road at that point.
You said you took this up as an investigator?
I did.
So tell me a little bit about the timeline. Has this been a cold case for a long time in the Sheriff's Department?
So obviously there's been a case here since 1970. And I can tell you in 1970 they did their due diligence and they have cross-referenced many, many cases of missing people back at that point. No such matches were obtained. And at that time, kind of run into a dead end. I received it as an investigator, so I'm a newly elected sheriff this year. So as of 2 months ago, I was one of the investigators at the sheriff's office. I've received this in the last 2 years, and in the process of going through that is how we ended up here today. First, we have to rely on the information that we had to start with back in 1970. And I will have to say I'm a little surprised on how much data and those types of things were available from those times. So that obviously creates some difficulties moving forward. And as you can imagine, most of the individuals that would have been dealing with this at that time are no longer with us. So we have nobody to ask, and it's just the paper trail at this point. Aside from some of the individuals that may have been in the area, that may have heard of some of these stories, that type of thing. So yes, it certainly creates some work for us that way.
It's her graduation photo. Yeah.
My mom, she knows about it. My dad just passed away, though, on January 19th. So it came right after his passing. So.
Is there a number of
So the 7 is the answer. I'm sorry, yes. So it's real simple. So, and with that, along those lines, I mean, we know of many more unidentified remains throughout Minnesota, and that's really part of our message, is we want to make sure that family members step up and have the courage, like this family had today, to come forward and to talk to us so we can get their DNA, so we can link these unidentified people across Minnesota, so we can provide those answers, provide starting points in additional investigations, and give those families the answers they've been waiting for all these years. I don't have a specific number. We don't have all of them, but we have numerous cold case investigations going around, working with our partners all across Minnesota. Our homicide agents are working with all of our law enforcement partners on dozens and dozens of cases. So.
Peter and Frederica. 6. She was the oldest, yes.
Where did you go to high school?
Hayfield. Hayfield. We are asking that, after this press release, we kind of hope that people can respect our privacy, and this is kind of where we're going to speak, and this will be it because we want them to investigate. So if we could, pass that word along to all of our co-workers out there, we would really appreciate that. Frederica.
Any other questions? Thank you all.
Thank you.